Welcome back and thank you for joining the Serving My Master podcast as we continue going through the initial commandments given to us on Har Sinai. As we finished in our last episode, given the mitzvah of Shabbos, the first part of Shabbos, telling us how we're supposed to bring in the Shabbos with Kiddush, how we're supposed to bring it in making the statement that we keep Shabbos because we are obligated to do so. The Torah continues by telling us what we're not supposed to do on Shabbos, opening up that gate of details of information that will show us how every part of our day, every part of our lives depends on service to the Master of the world. Whether we turn on a fire or we don't turn on a fire, whether we work in the field or don't work in the field, everything is only relevant as long as it relates to service of the Master of the world. But then when we see the Torah moves on to discuss the next commandment of Kibud Av V'Em, respecting parents. Something that of course right away takes us back to what Klal Yisrael was given in Mitzrayim. The training that a person needs, that Klal Yisrael needed as a nation to prepare themselves to become the servants of the Master of the world. But the Torah tells us that there is a constant need for that training. The Torah tells us in human life, we need to see the people that have given us so much as an opportunity to train ourselves. And how do we pay back? How do we serve their will? Not because we understand that we should do so, but because the Torah obligates us to do so. The Torah obligates us to do the things that would train our minds and our hearts to do and to be servants. And indeed, the Torah tells us in many details how one has to respect and honor his or her parents. In so many ways, things and details that whether one would think about them or not are again here to show us how every move that we do is here to remind us that we are here in service of the Master of the world. And indeed, that we are obligated to train ourselves how to be better servants. It is actually upon us an obligation to train ourselves, to train our children, and so forth, to make sure that there will be a continuity of service, but not just a baseline continuity of service, but the best possible. To make it our second nature, to make sure that everything in our lives runs in a way not only fulfilling the obligations given to us clearly in the Torah, but in a way that will make us better servants ultimately, in a way that will train our minds how to relate to service, in a way that will remind us that service itself is here as an obligation and as something that we owe to the Master of the world. Just as we would understand that we owe something to our parents, just as we would understand that a slave that is owned by a human master, as we were in Mitzrayim, their entire body, their entire life was there to serve their human masters. The same way, we as servants are obligated to train ourselves, to prepare ourselves, to be the best servants we could possibly be. And this, the Torah follows up, going into detail of the human condition, of how human nature could push us to do horrifying things. The Torah in the next few negative commandments telling us how to behave, how not to behave, showing us again the importance of remembering that as long as we understand we are servants, we will be able to overcome the shallowness and the evil inclinations of our human body. But showing us that if someone forgets that we are here in service of the Master of the world, immediately one would reach the lowest level of human nature. But even more importantly, telling us that not killing another person, not kidnapping another person, not stealing from another person is not something that we do because we understand naturally that it's an evil thing to do. We would not do those things because we are told not to do those things. Showing us that even something that is clearly something that one could come to their own conclusion not to do. Don't kidnap another human being. Something one might say is quite obvious. The Torah tells us on Har Sinai already. Don't think for 1 second that that's the reason why you should not kidnap another human being. Don't think for 1 second that there is anything that you should or shouldn't do in life that is there because you understand that that's the way you should lead your life. That is not the life of a servant. The life of a servant is one that understands that even the most basic instincts, the most basic ideas that one might think are even human ideas, we would only follow through on them as they are obligations and restrictions and commandments given to us by the Master of the world. Indeed, we will finish off and wrap up the 10 Commandments with a commandment that the Torah gives us on how one must be careful in the use of Hashem's name, in the use of the name of the Master of the world, how one is not allowed to use Hashem's name in vain or swear with Hashem's name, whether in a lie or for no reason. Reminding us that when one reaches a real level of service, the importance, the priority, the ideal of the Master has to become so high, has to reach such a level of importance that mentioning the name of the Master is something that should instill an incredible fear, an incredible respect in the servant's mind, showing us that even though as humans we might think using the Master's name is something we could do at will, the Torah tells us no. Even Hashem's name, the name of the Master of the world, should bring us to a level of understanding where we would be at utmost respect as the ultimate servant would be. And of course, showing us how powerful our words are. Showing us that not only were we given a physical body that can do tremendous physical things, and that all of that needs to be in service of the Master of the world. Not only were we given a brain and a heart that could think and could feel, and all that needs to be in service of the Master of the world, but we were also given an incredible tool, our mouth, something that is so powerful that uttering the wrong words or the right words in the wrong circumstance is of such importance that it was given to us as a commandment in the initial 10 Commandments, showing us again and again through this entire last 2 seasons how everything, every move, every word, every step, every piece of history that we know, every moment in life that we have or that we can look forward to is only relevant as long as it's in service of the Master of the world. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to exploring more avenues of this conversation with you and try to find and see how using this idea can bring us more clarity in our daily lives.